The development of online learning platforms and social media communities has revolutionized instrumental music education, providing accessible and flexible opportunities for aspiring musicians. The resources now available online make it increasingly viable for self-taught learners to scaffold and navigate a successful educational pathway. Among these learners, guitar enthusiasts seek to understand the role and importance of music theory to enhance their playing skills. Understanding how online self-guided learners approach theory may help inform future music pedagogy and enhance student engagement. Welcome to my talk, in which I discuss findings of a participatory inquiry approach into virtual communities of guitar learners. I explore their motivations, challenges, and strategies when engaging with music theory to answer the research question, how do online learners of guitar approach theory? Are there rules regarding music theory, how it applies to the guitar, and how it applies to self-taught guitarists, specifically those using online resources to teach themselves? Prior to the introduction of the internet, communities of guitarists gathered to share their passions and interests. The evolution of social media instigated a shift of these communities to online spaces, with strong presences on popular sites such as YouTube and Facebook. Activities on and engagement with these virtual sites is driven by intrinsic motivation and is inherently learner-centered. Discovering how musicians learn using online community spaces could inform future pedagogical design. During prior research in this space, I developed the concept of epistemic indulgence, in which learners have free rein in the methods, validity, scope, and justification of their knowledge and involvement. The concept builds upon Hofer and Pintrick's work on personal epistemology, which in turn was developed from a synthesis of multiple previous theories of epistemology. This project sought to answer the research question by searching for evidence of epistemic indulgence in the activities of the online guitar community. Intrinsic motivation and inquiry-based learning are symbiotic concepts, with each informing and supporting the other in various fields of education. A Deweyan view of inquiry learning emphasizes helping learners to satisfy curiosities and problems they bring from their real-world experiences. Self-directed learners using online spaces often post inquiries to virtual communities seeking advice to solve their real-world problems. Incorporating social networking platforms into music pedagogy can introduce a student-centered approach to learning by offering autonomy to the students. Clearly demonstrating the concept of epistemic indulgence, Marone and Rodriguez stated that students can turn to YouTube as a space for self-directed learning on their own time, at their own pace, and according to their own learning styles and cultures. Epistemic indulgence is not an entirely new concept or exclusive to online learning environments. Richard Daniels' book Be Dangerous on Rock Guitar, published prior to the birth of the internet, features a plethora of unique approaches to theory. In his introduction, he presents his bespoke approach to tablature, which he refers to as the six-line staff, and explains that he does not use the standard notation staff, as rock guitarists do not sit around and read music. It's just not necessary for those who want to play rock. He uses his own language, taxonomies, and symbolism throughout his book. Here we see an example of his use of symbols for notes added to the minor pentatonic scale. These symbols did not catch on in global nomenclature as virtual online guitar communities developed their own folksonomies. A participatory inquiry approach was employed in this ethnographic project. I immersed myself in online guitar communities to observe the practices of other members. So as not to interrupt the activities and thus keep the data pure, no interactions with the communities were undertaken during the data collection period. This approach was important because interaction may have enforced responses or caused bias in the data directed towards the research question. So looking for unorthodox approaches to theory in the data which clearly demonstrate epistemic indulgence implies a deductive approach. However, it was a mixed approach because not knowing exactly what to look for implies an inductive approach. So the first phase of data collection involved collecting natural language data from posts on the public Facebook group Guitar and Music Theory. This group was created in 2017, has nearly 700,000 members, and typically features approximately 20 posts per day. They describe themselves as a place to discuss and share musical ideas, specializing in scales, modes, and jazz-based extended chords. They say you can bring your playing to the next level, not by becoming a better player, but by understanding music and how it works. So this group was selected as it has a topical focus directly relevant to the research intent. Links originating in posts and responses on this page would then be followed in a form of silicon snowball sampling. More about that later. So the initial data collection plan intended to collect data from posts that had generated over 100 responses. The assumption was that this would provide quantity data through efficient data collection. However, after initial analysis, it was observed that much of the data in these samples were poor quality. Many responses were simply thumbs up icons or people agreeing or disagreeing to comments using short responses that didn't actually contain any valuable content. And we know data quality is an ongoing issue in social media research. So this process of data collection resulted in a data set comprising of over 63,000 words. However, it was decided in order to improve data quality, a second mode of data collection would be to collect data from every post in a 1-week period. That was in April 2024. This resulted in a further 25,000 words, approximately making a total data corpus of just over 89,000 words. Now, I do have to talk about ethics briefly. No human research ethics clearance was necessary for this project. The situation regarding ethics when collecting data from social media posts has been described as very fluid by Mancuso and Vegetti. To ensure appropriate academic rigour, ethical guidelines prescribed by the National Statement on Ethical Conduct in Human Research were strictly adhered to by not reporting any names or other identifiers, and also by ensuring that no uniquely identifiable social media posts or responses which can be linked back to the original community member are published. As is standard practice in social media research, the publicly available data has been anonymised and any information that could identify any online community members has been removed prior to data analysis. All data in this research is considered non-contentious. There is no foreseeable risk that reusing some of the data could cause the original creator to become identifiable and therefore put at any risk of trolling or any other kinds of violence that they would otherwise previously have been. Now on to the findings. So the selected Facebook group provided to be a valuable community regarding content related to online learners' approaches to theory. Some examples of questions posted by community members include questions about scales, questions about chords, more general questions about theory, and some that got more philosophical. The observation that people are seeking advice to define terms and seeking explanations for common concepts indicates that these would be valuable content in any introductory music curriculum. However, this is merely reinforcing current curricular design and does not address the research question. One post that clearly indicates people are seeking epistemic indulgence asked, "What is the least amount of music theory I need?" This post generated 256 responses, including all the predictable unhelpful answers from none and 0 to all of it and as much as possible. Those numbers indicated here are actually much bigger because they don't include similar responses. There are also the predictable troll-like answers, like 4 units or 3, at least 3, or an eighth will get you started. The response, "You need at least one music theory," was followed by another contributor stating, "The trolls are getting philosophical." Answers that do demonstrate the presence of epistemic indulgence include "enough to satisfy you," "the one it gets you to where you want to go," this one saying "that which sounds good is good," many comments about "what you want to do," or "whatever you are happy with." This comment is clear evidence of epistemic indulgence regarding what theory you need to learn. Other responses address the indulgence aspect of epistemic indulgence with particular reference to guitarists. One response stated that a YouTuber had created a series of videos addressing that particular question and included a link to a playlist. In the first video on the playlist, the YouTuber makes the statement, "Theory that's not on my fretboard, I've got no time for." This garnered many positive accolades in the comments section. Now, this post was one of the best examples of what I'm referring to as silicon snowball sampling, the data collection method employed in this study. The original Facebook post had 256 comments, 256 data points. The YouTube playlist linked in this one post had a total of 4,602 comments. So this is an increase of nearly 18 times the amount of raw data. There are actually quite a few valuable responses in this post, many of which were clearly confirmed the presence of epistemic indulgence. An intriguing response that might inspire further research was this one about changes in music theory as a result of COVID. Is that a thing? Maybe someone should research that. There were, however, also a few responses that countered the concepts of indulgence, like this one, and this personal anecdotal one. One theme I observed in the data that doesn't directly inform the research question, however it might be very useful to curriculum designers, is that there's no shortage of humour in online guitar communities. It is well known that humour aids learning and intrinsic motivation. An example of this was a member submitted a post saying that they were interested in playing all the chords and asked how many there were. Among the following responses were 33 references to the Dire Straits song Sultans of Swing, quoting or referring to the lyrics about Guitar George, who knows all the chords. The next theme was autonomous taxonomies, where learners who don't know the formal terminologies, lexica, jargon and lingo, and they make up their own terms. Now, others may not understand them. For example, various posts use the terms fields, position, pattern, box and shape in various ways to describe areas of the guitar neck. The naming of chords is also not universal, and online guitar communities aren't helping. This is also well documented in the literature. A comparison of these two diagrams instantly reveals room for confusion due to two contradicting uses of the word position. At the top here, we see a similar diagram. However, in this case, the creator is using the word pattern. And at the bottom, we see both words, pattern and position, which to a self-guided guitar beginner could cause a little bit of confusion. The next theme that I found was modes of visualizing. I've already mentioned tablature, which is prolific in the online guitar communities, where traditional music notation is not entirely absent. The presence of tablature is mostly due to the historical development of online guitar peer-to-peer file sharing sites, which developed in the early days of word processors and the internet, with new versions of tablature evolving out of necessity due to the limits of available fonts and graphic capabilities. There is general agreement, but not total consensus, regarding tablature iconography. One place where there is more inconsistency, however, is regarding fretboard diagrams. And members of online guitar communities have numerous approaches to creating understandable graphics. Here we have a couple of attempts to present the Scottish pentatonic scale. And here is three more from one particular blog post. The bracelet diagram resembles the circle diagram on the previous slide. However, the tonnets diagram was rarely found anywhere else in the online guitar community. The community member which posted this diagram described it as one diagram to rule them all. However, there was no explanation of the diagram and a large amount of confusion in the responses. Here's a diagram created by a community member attempting to explain something they referred to as the BB King box. However, in the same discussion, there was a link to a website that featured this other diagram. Here, the shape referred to previously as the Albert King box was called the first extension. We can also see here further use of the term position in a way which could also cause confusion to a beginning self-guided guitar learner. The old theory versus creativity chestnut was another prominent theme. This concept is also neither new, confined to the online communities, or restricted to discourse regarding music. This concept is also a direct example of epistemic indulgence by way of demonstrating people wanting to go their own way and avoid using the prescriptive rules of theory. One respondent highlighted the fact that this is not a new concept. Concepts from the community members regarding this concept include don't give in to music theory, or the best way to make new music is to completely throw out theory. And I liked this one. Theory is for people who like to sound boring. One useful response found via Silicon Snowball sampling from a link in the original Facebook community described music theory as a stigma, and listed 3 reasons. One is that music is artistic and theory can't explain it. It makes you think rather than play, and some famous musician doesn't know theory, therefore I don't have to. Some of the comments addressing this concept demonstrate either an ignorance or maybe a deliberate indulgence. This member thought knowing theory would diminish enjoyment. And I guess some people have different ideas of what is or is not theory. And of course, there is the fear of the unknown. There were, of course, many comments, numerous comments, that counter the concept of music theory stifling creativity. This person did find enjoyment by knowing theory. This one called it a gateway to expression. This comment I found was perhaps a little bit more insightful. Knowing something never got in the way of anybody's creativity. And this one was a really common thread. People who don't know theory say you don't need it. Another common thread was to describe music theory as descriptive rather than prescriptive, which of course we all know it is. Now I did find Desplier's immediate tangible performance goals as a theme among the self-taught individuals using online resources, and this is also a form of epistemic indulgence. Now there are numerous examples of these kinds of goals. Some of them were very specific, like this one about scales, and some of them were more general, including just learning about reading music. Another theme I found in the data was joy. A common purpose of learning and or playing an instrument is typically enjoyment, especially for self-directed learners. If the act of learning is not enjoyable, this could defeat the purpose. This is a manifestation of intrinsic motivation. Learning an instrument is, in itself, for most people, an indulgent act that is undertaken in their spare time. Therefore, it's only natural that the process of learning should also be indulgent, and hence enjoyable. There were 103 data extracts coded for this theme, including the following examples. This one seems to imply slowing down and learning the process to focus on joy. However, this one perhaps implies the opposite. And then there's this one, and this one, which is perhaps more specific about what to learn. Yeah, this one is very unspecific. The theme of joy could be a useful insight into music curricula, particularly around assessment theory. Before moving to the discussion, one more point that must be made is the sometimes unhelpful nature of social media posts and comments. Sometimes they're unhelpful because of trolling, sometimes they're unhelpful simply because the content is incorrect. This example, however, it's one that's unhelpful because the creator just doesn't adhere to normal communication standards. It's likely that the creator of this comment understood what they were trying to convey. However, it's not clear if any value to a learner can be gained from this post. So, on to the discussion. Intrinsic motivation is fundamental to self-guided learners using online communities as a resource for their learning journey. And in a previous publication, I've shown how it is also deeply integrated with epistemic indulgence. The distinction that separates epistemic indulgence from intrinsic motivation is the deliberate or sometimes completely oblivious attempt to create one's own patterns of meaning, knowledge, and understanding. Intrinsic motivation is the internal force that drives self-guided learning, while epistemic indulgence is the outcome of individual interpretations and understandings, often diverging from standard norms. The guitar is a particularly difficult instrument to learn how to sight read traditional music notation. A very common thread in the online discourse regarding sight reading is to make use of the caged system. Now in this system there are 5 patterns on the fretboard for each of the 12 major scales. These shapes are based on the 5 most commonly used open chords, C, A, G, E and D. If this system is how self-directed guitar learners often learn to sight read, maybe it's a good tip for curriculum designers to engage with it. However, there seems to be a division among the online guitar community regarding its usefulness. There are many who commend the system as being very useful for beginners. Some also recommend it for more advanced players. However, there are also many who argue that it is not helpful. The most common reason for not recommending the caged system is the argument that it stifles creativity. However, this has been addressed and nullified. The majority of the negative comments come from people who seem to have not fully examined the cage system and assume it is prescriptive rather than descriptive. There are numerous resources online to teach the caged system. Incorporating them into curricula on sight reading for the guitar could be an effective use of contemporary resources. It is not likely that there will ever be a totally universal nomenclature for music theory, and actually, why would we want one? As music evolves and new genres emerge, folksonomies will simultaneously emerge within and around them. Curriculum designers should learn to embrace and describe folksonomies. Doing so will also enhance connection between the curriculum and new learners, bringing the opportunity to link well-developed music theory to emerging musical phenomena. The notion of epistemic indulgence aligns with the idea that effective music education should not only impart knowledge, but also encourage students to explore and challenge established norms. The comments from participants reflect a trend among musicians to prioritize creativity over strict adherence to theoretical frameworks. Moreover, the study highlights the role of learner-centered pedagogies in shaping learning experiences. However, the presence of diverse opinions and instructional styles within online forums can lead to both enrichment and confusion. For instance, while some learners benefit from innovative teaching methods, others may struggle with unconventional terminologies that deviate from traditional music theory. This dichotomy emphasizes the need for educators and community leaders to cultivate an inclusive environment that accommodates various learning styles and preferences. Additionally, the research points to potential of social media as a powerful tool for music education. The vast amount of data generated through interactions in online communities provides a rich resource for understanding learner behavior and preferences. There is a rich plethora of online resources. Educators may see their role in the 21st century as less of an imparter of knowledge and more of a concierge to the existing array of knowledges. As the digital realm continues to expand, it is imperative for educators to adapt their approaches, ensuring that learners are equipped with the knowledge and skills necessary to thrive in both virtual and traditional musical contexts. Educators and curriculum designers should explore the intersection of technology, creative, and music theory in informal learning environments. The research intended to discover examples of how guitarists who are self-taught view and understand music theory in an effort to inform music pedagogy. This builds on work by Lucy Green, who applied popular musicians' self-pedagogy to the classroom curriculum design. However, Green's seminal work did not focus on online discourse or on the guitar. This study sheds light on the complex landscape of online guitar learning and the multifaceted role of music theory within this context. The findings indicate that while learners are eager to engage with theoretical concepts, the diversity of approaches and terminologies can lead to significant confusion. This underscores the necessity for clearer instructional materials and reliable taxonomy systems that can bridge the gap between theory and practice. The study attempted to answer the question, how do online learners of guitar approach theory, and sought evidence of epistemic indulgence in an adductive research approach. Epistemic indulgence was indeed found to be present, although not ubiquitous, as most learners were keen to comply with standard notions of music theory, as they saw it useful for communication among other musicians. However, the unique characteristics of the guitar did lead to indulgent epistemologies. As online platforms continue to evolve, fostering an environment that encourages collaboration and shared understanding, embracing learner-centered pedagogies informed by these environments will be crucial for the development of effective music education strategies. Future research should explore the long-term impacts of these online learning experiences on musicianship and creativity, as well as the potential for further integration of formal and informal learning pathways. Thanks for listening.